Thank you very much for joining us today to our webinar about how to comply with AS9100 in a digital world. So today, there is me, Kevin Devecioglu, as Managing Director of Bimser International. Today with me, there is Alex Kvatrov from AMRAS Consulting. And also we have Anderson Wang, Pre-Sales Software Engineer of Bimser International. So together we'll be presenting you today's webinar. And please keep in mind that we have a Q&A session at the end, so you'll be able to ask questions. Well, before further ado, I think I can start with a very, very brief company presentation about who we are, what we do. I have 6 slides only, and then I'll hand it over to Alex to learn from him about the aviation industry and how to comply with AS9100. Our company is Bimser International. We are an enterprise software maker since 1998. We are based in New York. So as a company, in essence, we help organizations simplify their processes, and we become their partners in digital transformation. So that's our basically vision, and that's how we design our products. Our software development center and our parent company is based in Istanbul metro area, where the yellow dot is on the map. And we have another company in Europe called Bimser Europe for our European operations, and us, Bimser International, based in New York. As a group, we are about 150 people. We are a growing organization. Also, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development is in our board. So with their help and support, we have a lot of visibility in international markets in Europe and other international markets. Bimser is a certified SAP vendor, a Microsoft Gold partner, and Cloud ERP Acumatica's independent software vendor. Also, I need to mention that Bimser is ISO 9001 certified and ISO 271 certified. As I was mentioning earlier, since 1998, we have been very, very focused. We have developed 4 products. One of them is EBA. EBA is our enterprise content management platform. It has a powerful workflow engine, as well as records management, document management, and OCR capabilities. We have BIM. BIM is an enterprise asset and maintenance management. It helps companies manage their assets in terms of maintenance operations, such as machinery, equipment, fleet of cars, trucks, facility, and so on. QDMS is our quality, risk, and compliance management software. It helps companies comply with various management and quality standards, such as AS9100, that we'll talk more about today. ISO, BRC, SQF, FDA regulations can be easily complied with the help of QDMS in electronic environment. And finally, we have Ensemble as a business process management tool. So when we look at our products as a whole, Ensemble is a managerial tool with performance management and balanced scorecard capabilities. And other products of ours, they automate processes. All of our products, they can work standalone. They can be integrated with each other, or they can be linked to any ERP, any CRM platform available in the marketplace. Our products work on cloud, they work on-premise servers, and mobile apps are available. So we have up-to-date technology, and we keep investing in our products. That is that's crucial for us for our continuous improvement. Also, I need to mention about our implementation, our projects. Basically, on the screen, you can see how many projects that we have delivered by the end of last year. You can also get the idea of how many clients we have globally. So as you see, we have a lot of implementations done, especially QDMS that we'll talk more about today. We have deployed QDMS more than 900 times, and we have a lot of references available. And finally, I'd like to share some of our references. For instance, United Nations is one of our references. They are using our document management system to manage refugee tracking. In Syria, we have 3M. They are using our workflow engine in 17 different countries, especially in Europe and Middle East. We have ArcLight Movie Theaters in the US as a reference. AstraZeneca is a reference in pharma industry. We have Bridgestone. They use our workflow engine in Europe and in Middle East in association with their ERP system. And finally, we have Ford and Renault Nissan Alliance. In addition to enterprise level companies, such as these references on the screen, we also have a lot of clients in mid-market. Thanks to our products, they are scalable and they are pretty user-friendly. So it makes these adaptation much easier for us, and it makes it easy for us to present our products both in mid-market and enterprise market as well. So in a nutshell, that's who we are and what we do as Bimser International. So what I like to do is I like to present you Alex, certified ISO auditor, as you may know. And I like to hand the microphone to Alex and love to hear from him. Alex, would you like to continue from here?
Oh, yes. Thank you very much, Gavin, for the introduction. Just very briefly, a brief summary about myself. As Kevin mentioned, I'm certified as an ISO 9001-2015 lead auditor. And I am the proprietor of AMRES Consulting, which I formed about 4 years ago after I retired as a project manager in a very large aerospace company that was and still is certified to the quality. And the purpose of my consulting business is to assist businesses to achieve and maintain ISO certification. And back in August of last year, I came across Bimser International and was very impressed with the tool suite that they have, and specifically I was interested in QDMS because the QDMS tool does provide excellent support and assistance in the management of, as a matter of fact, any ISO quality standard, including AS9100. So what I'm going to talk about in the next 20 minutes or so is what is the AS9100, and very briefly go into its history. Then I'm going to touch upon the quality management system, QMS. We'll talk about the plan, do, check, act cycle, which is the core of any ISO quality management system. And then we'll discuss the additional requirement that AS9100 imposes as compared to ISO 9001. It's, again, everything that ISO requires is required by AS9100 plus some additional very specific requirements. And then what does it take to achieve and maintain AS9100 certification? And then I'm going to very briefly talk about or introduce the QDMS tool as it applies to any ISO implementation, and then end with a conclusion. Okay, just a brief history of the AS9100 standard. It's actually has been released, and the latest, by the way, the latest version of it is D. Okay, it has gone out and seen through many innovations, and the latest one is D, which was released by the International Aerospace Quality Group in September of 2016. Now, the IAQG is an international non-profit organization, and it's actually incorporated under the Belgian law, registered in Belgium, and it consists of various aerospace and defense industries, consisting really of 3 sectors: Americas, Asia Pacific, and Europe. And specifically, AS9100 applies to quality management systems for aviation, space, and defense organizations. And it's sometimes summarized as ASD. Okay. Now, what I want to stress, and I highlighted this in red, is the latest version of AS9100, which is the D version. Its structure is identical. Okay, so I emphasize that, identical to ISO 9001-2015, which is the latest ISO version. And as a matter of fact, all other ISO industry-specific standards, and there's many of them, dozens of them, but they all follow the same structure. This is very important to understand. Now, in order to coordinate both the requirements for 9100 and to the ISO requirements, IAQG is represented on a technical committee, ISO technical committee 176, where it coordinates all of those requirements. Okay, so as you can see, AS9100 is the main requirement for the both the manufacturing and service organizations. However, there's a slightly different requirement, 9110 for maintenance organizations, 9120 for distributor organizations, and 9101 is how do you perform audits, okay, on aviation, space, and defense organizations. Okay, this is a brief history of the standard, and everything really goes back, originates with the MIL-Q 9858 standard, which was released by the Department of Defense in 1959. And then subsequently in 1987, ISO published the first 9000 standard, which then in 2015 became the latest version of ISO 9001, 2015 version. Now on the bottom in purple is basically the quick summary of the AS9100 timetable. Started in 1997, which was again based on the ISO, the 1994 version. And then it went through a number of iterations, finally ending up with Rev D, which was, as I mentioned before, released in September of 2016. And now Rev D, the AS9100 lines up totally with the ISO 2015 version. Okay, this is, as I pointed out before, ISO 9000 was really the core of what's in the AS9100, and I would say roughly 80% of what's required to satisfy AS9100 is covered under ISO 9001. And as you see here, there are some additional requirements for AS9100, and those are the list of what is required in addition to ISO. And obviously, risk management is a risk management process really is what's required in AS9100, where it is still required to address risks under ISO, but here it's a whole process that's required in AS9100. Obviously, product safety, any special requirements, critical items. Configuration management is very important. Is how you control all the documentation. On-time delivery. Counterfeit parts. See, that's an interesting requirement because if by any chance you have some counterfeit parts that wind up in your product, that could definitely impact safety. So you have to really track and monitor for any possibility of counterfeit parts to show up in your product. Obviously, you can't allow that to happen. And of course, there's expanded requirements for production control and obviously the external providers, which include suppliers of raw material, of finished components, parts, and so on. So obviously, you have to make sure that they follow the same process you do in your organization. Okay, very brief description of what QMS, Quality Management System, is all about. And basically, it's a set of documentation that does include processes, okay, procedures, policies, and records for your business. And processes, I think, is a very important part of any QMS system, where this forces you to think about how your manufacturing or service organization is structured to provide a most effective, efficient control. Now, there are not a lot of documents required by AS9100. Most of it is really what is required by your business to satisfy, obviously, the end product customers. And a successful QMS that has to be developed is really revolves around the specific requirements of the product or services that the customers expect to be delivered. And there are 7 principles, quality management principles that have to be addressed and followed. Obviously, it's customer focus. Customer wants to get quality product all the time. Leadership, the role of management is very important in both ISO and AS9100. Engagement of the workforce. They are to be aware of what is required of them to fulfill the AS9100 process approach that you mentioned. So the processes have to be defined so that you can then track and monitor each process and make sure that all the processes are properly integrated with. And all of that has to be based on decision making that's based on some sort of evidence. And the last principle is relationship management. And what this means is that not only is management responsible to manage the product or service that you're providing to the customer, but also manage all of the suppliers, the customers, the regulatory organizations, any interested parties, stakeholders, anybody that is involved in this overall business, they have to be managed. And it is the responsibility of management to take care of that. Okay, this is the famous Plan Do Check Act cycle that was actually developed by Glennie, and he is a well-known funding expert. And this really forms the basis for all of the ISO quality management systems. And if you look on the right side, this is the basic structure. Okay, there's 10 paragraphs. The first 3 are really limited to definitions, introductions, and so on. But the meat of the context of the quality management system starts with 4. It goes 4 through 10. And the requirements for each of these sections is shown on the diagram, where starting with 4, which is all the inputs that's going into the planning stage. So the inputs are really coming from the customer requirements, then the organization and its contacts. So that's really what the business consists of. And then also on the bottom of section 4, you see needs and expectations of interested parties. Now, stakeholders or interested. So all of those form inputs then go into the planning stage. And then once you develop a plan, and then you go into really the meat of the development of your either service or product, that's both section 7 and 8, which is the resources that are needed for the development of the product, and then the operation. Once you do that, you then go to section 9, which is performance evaluation. So now you evaluate your actual product or service, and you look for improvements, and obviously some of it will be coming back from your customers, but hopefully a lot of it will be coming internally, and then you go into the check mode, and then into the section 10 improvement, where you now go and improve that everything is to be corrected. And then you go back into the planning and you basically stay in that circle, and you can have multiple circles happening because you may be looking at different areas for improvement. So this is a very key element for any quality management system. All right. So what are the benefits of getting certification for AS9100, or as a matter of fact, any ISO? Is obviously you want to deliver safe and reliable products and continuously improve it. And obviously, in any of the environments for AS9100, you have a lot of regulatory requirements. So you have to satisfy those requirements plus, obviously, the customer. And as I mentioned before, the processes are very important in planning and conducting your day-to-day business activities. And also to integrate all of those processes with your business operations and strategy of where you want your business to go. Documentation is very important. It has to be accurate, controlled, even though the number of documents that are required by the standard are not significant. However, as part of your business, you should define which documents are needed to manage your development of your products and services. And again, very important to focus on the supply chain. And again, as I mentioned before, part of it is making sure that there's no counterfeit parts that could sneak into your product. And obviously, you have to satisfy all the interested parties. Again, I mentioned on the documentation that you need to focus on really what is required to run the business. And not have a lot of extra documents that are really not applicable or not useful and just distract people from their work. But those that are really needed to make sure that the product is being built correctly. And obviously, gaining recognition from the regulatory authorities is very important because then they are assured that you have a system in place that will provide a very good and safe product. All right, this is a very brief summary of the additional requirements from the ISO 9215 version that I mentioned before, and they're highlighted in purple color throughout this slide, and I can go over very briefly on what it is. If you can start from, like clause 1, 2, and 3 I mentioned before, it's not a requirement. It's mostly a introduction and terms and definition. And for the AS9100, you can see that product safety and counterfeit parts are added to the definition. So that those need to be considered. Go to clause 4. You can see in purple that for AS9100, a quality manual is required, whereas in ISO 9001 for the 2015 version, it is not. They eliminated that version. Basically, clause 5 is really almost identical. Clause 6, okay, even though it's not highlighted in AS9100, risk management has to be addressed much more seriously, where you have to have a whole risk management process established. So you have to identify the risks how much, what is their, how do they contribute to the product, or how do you address them? So you have to have a whole plan and process of dealing with the risks. Okay? In clause 7, okay, this is where you're looking for your support, so all the resources that are needed for the product, and again, product safety and ethical behavior is stressed highly in the AS9100. A lot of the additions in the AS9100 is in clause 8, because obviously this is where your development of both either the product or the service is performed. So there are additional requirements that need to be addressed. And the other important part is, you can see on the first line there, it says planning for product obsolescence. And being involved in the aerospace business, that's an ongoing issue. As soon as you develop a design, a particular product, when you're ready to go into production, all of a sudden a certain part becomes obsolete. Now you have to learn and find an equivalent part. So in the organization where I work, we had a separate obsolescence department where they just monitor safety. Obviously, it's very much related in the development of the product or service, whereas the accounting for parts, so that really prevent from having them penetrating into your design. Clause 9 it involves more on performance indicators based on internal audits. Okay, internal audits are required in every ISO standard, but key performance indicators is a focus in AS9100. And lastly, in clause 10 is improvement, and here again it's human factors in non-conformity. And I think an example is what has happened recently on the 737 MAX, where human factors maybe have not been fully recognized in the overall this process. So again, that's key is a key element of the AS9100. All right, now is, well, how can I achieve AS9100 certification? Well, the first thing is you have to really establish and implement. I think the word is implement your QMS. Okay, so it's not just having something written on paper and then you can say, okay, I'm ready. No, you have to implement it for quite some time. And then the next item is the selection and to hire a certification body to perform the audit. So in other words, the individual, the auditor that will come, will review your compliance to AS9100, and then if you comply, then you would get the certification. And the important part, and I circle that, is to select a registrar that has experience with the product line. Okay, there are many, many registrars available, but if he or she is not familiar with the product, it could take a lot longer for them to understand what you're doing, your processes. Before the registrar is invited, you should perform an internal audit to make sure that your business complies with the QMS, that all your data records are in place. And generally, the auditors look at the results of the internal audit. And management must conduct formal reviews. And that has to be formally done through meetings with minutes taking, action items, closure of action items, and all of the list has to show that this is a normal process of the organization. Now, corrective action is a very important part. So all the corrective actions have to be noted and a documented resolution provided. And again, it's another loop that you have to go through and make sure and verify that there's a closure to each of uh, the actions that have been opened. So once you believe you're ready, then you would invite the registrar, and usually it's done in two stages. The first stage is a shorter meeting where he or she will look at what you have, whether they believe you're ready for full-blown audit. And if they say that you are, then a few weeks later, there's a stage two, which is then the management is certainly going to be interviewed and also selected employees, just to make sure that the quality system is not focused in a few or controlled by a few people, that it really the whole organization supports it. So once you've achieved certification, now in order to maintain it, that requires you to follow the process that you've established. And if you think that okay, I got a plaque and I can relax, go to my old ways, no, it won't work, because you have to perform a yearly audit where the registrar is invited, and again, they will look at all the work and make sure that everything is being followed. And again, they're going to look at management meetings, documentation status, making sure that documents are properly controlled, all the records that are needed for your business are available. And as I mentioned, every year you have to schedule a certification to make sure that you adhere to AS9100 quality requirements. Okay, this, as I mentioned previously, I was very impressed with the QDMS tool, because as I was doing my consulting work, I really felt that a tool should be made available to help maintain all of this. Bimser International, and I really was impressed with the capabilities of the QDMS tool, because it's a really friendly tool that sort of eliminates the individual employees from having to maintain all of the records and so on. It really provides a central place where all that information is maintained. All the data is maintained in a single Oracle database, so that, and just imagine when the auditor comes, he or she can, has access to all the data, whether you have, only a few departments or many departments. All the data is available in one place. So it makes that part of the job extremely easy. And in conclusion, I just wanted to, again, reiterate that ISO 9001, which is kind of the daddy, if I want to call it that way, of all of the other quality management systems, have a very big impact all over the world. And as a result of that, a number of other standards, which are peculiar to various industries, have been adopted, which obviously is one of them. And confidence has been building, and every year there's an increase in the number of companies that have been, certified in, both ISO, AS9100, and it really gives you quite a bit of flexibility in managing your business, But the important part is you have to establish a QMS and then uh, kind of live with it, in your daily activities. And then once you develop that, it will really give you better integration with all your other business activities. Uh, the responsibility of quality is not just rests upon the quality manager or the quality organization, but it's really spread throughout the organization, and it forces top management to be involved. Um, Risk management is a very important part of the QMS. So you really want to identify the risks before they become out of control and not manageable. So this forces you to think ahead. And obviously, performance monitoring is critical, where you look at the results of your output and then look at ways to improve it. And believe me, there's always ways to improve it, whether uh, to improve the product, reduce the cost. I mean, there's a lot of ways that improvements can be made. And finally, as I mentioned before, I think QDMS tool provided by Bimser is an outstanding tool that really will help you both to get to the certification and maintain certification. So I hope you definitely will consider at least looking at some of the capabilities of the tool, which, by the way, I think Anderson will go into a little more detail right after my presentation. So I think I'm all done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alex. Thank you for the insights. As for AS9100, and also before we talk about how actually one can comply with AS9100, it's important to learn about the fundamentals. So that's great to know. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Now I'd like to turn it to Anderson Wang. He's the pre-sales software engineer of Bimser International, and he will address how to comply with AS9100 in electronic environments. Anderson, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Thank you very much for handing the mic to me, Kevin. And also thank you, Alex, for talking to us about AS9100 fundamentals. Yes, I'd like to restate how many industries have to have particular quality standards to comply with. While there could be the base of the ISO, there's also more specified fields such as AS9100. Luckily for us, my part of this presentation is going to be talking about QDMS. QDMS is our quality risk and compliance management system, and it works across all verticals, including AS9100. So this first slide is going to present some of the features of QDMS. Main purpose of QDMS is to ensure that a company are complying to the quality standards that they would like to comply with. So we have listed on here in the list of quality standards. We have various ISO certifications, standard ISO 9001, 2015. There's also other various ISO certifications. And we have written here AS9100D, which we had learned about today. Now, QDMS is an entirely web-based application, and it is a modular product. So what this means is that QDMS provides a selection of modules, and a company can pick and choose independently which one they would like to purchase. In this case, it's very beneficial because you can scale up or scale down. If you are, for instance, you can first choose to purchase maybe one or two modules and later on add more modules or take away some modules. So we provide that flexibility with this product. QDMS is very easily integrated with other applications. We have integrated with Acumatica, Sage, Oracle, SAP. And to implement QDMS is very simple. A lot of it is just taking a bunch of Excel sheets and uploading it into the system, or we can take it from your ERP system as well. With that in mind, minimal IT support is going to be needed. There's going to be a decreased demand for technical support upon implementation, and also for the training of QDMS. The advantage of having QDMS as a digitalized, digital transformative product is so that you can have all of your memory, all of your actions stored securely within a corporate memory. And this is something that you can always refer to with a quick access point capability, as long as you have connection to the internet. So this means you can connect through your web browser or your mobile application. As Alex had mentioned before, QDMS does have a mobile application that is available for Android and iOS. More features that we can talk about QDMS. It is user-friendly and easy to learn. Once you learn how to use one of your modules of QDMS, the same idea, you can extrapolate that knowledge, use it consistently through maneuvering the other modules of QDMS. For notifications, pending tasks in the home screen will be categorized by the modules that your user has access to. So yes, it is a very permission-based aspect with that. On top of having these pending tasks in your home screen, you can also choose to get your notifications through email. For example, I can forward a document for someone and require them to read it. I can embed a hyperlink to that document straight into QDMS, and the person receiving it, maybe they'll receive the email and click into it. If not, they can always find that reading task in their home screen. Now, there are some advantages that come with having an email integration. One would be the configurable warning and escalation mechanism. Now, this is to say that if a task is overdue, QDMS will automatically prompt the next person in charge. And this is very advantageous to keep everybody alert on their tasks. I had mentioned before, it is a user-based application, so there will be login authentication to make sure that everything is secure. You are accessing the documents that you are qualified or have the permissions to see. And with each action, many of the modules of QDMS stores a lot of the activities done so that you can take all of that, read it into an analytical report. The lower probabilities of human error. This is because it's a digital transformative product that will automate your processes in regards to quality. To make sure that, as these tedious tasks go on, you won't make any mistakes, and you will all be saving time on your document preparation. If you want to have your revisions, you want to have all your version history stored, QDMS will provide you that benefit. Also, with the notification system, having it all through email and native in QDMS, you will be improving your communication among your departments and your locations. Your form distribution and your memo distribution is also going to be much more efficient thanks to QDMS. Again, since we are moving on to the digital world, we will also be reducing our costs on paper and other consumable materials. Now, this slide is to present our top QDMS modules. Now, the reason I say top QDMS modules is because these are not the only modules that we provide. In fact, these are just the most popular modules that we have seen in our recent deployments. We have much more modules, and we're always making more modules upon projects and requests. So I'm just going to go through a list here. The first one being the document management module. This is the core of QDMS. Any actions from the creation to the deletion, distribution, and deletion of a document will be stored within this document management module. Below that, we have the customer complaints module. As you can see, there's internal and external. That means a way to receive and handle complaints or issues that come in from either an employee or a vendor, a customer, externally. Next is the CAPA module. The CAPA management module of QDMS is a way to identify your nonconformities. That is to say, when a nonconformity comes in, you can log the source of the nonconformity, the classification of the nonconformity, and whether you want to handle it through a corrective action or a preventive action. Below that is the audit management module. They're going to have to run through a series of audits, especially if they want to comply with quality standards, as we had seen before. So the audit management module is a way to devise an audit plan, and within you can assign employees to perform individual audits. Now, whoever performs these audits, they can report on their findings and generate a nice, for instance, Excel sheet to distribute and to show the results of their audit performance. Second column here, we have starting off the action management module. In most generic sense, it is a task manager. With it, you can assign tasks along with their start and end dates, their due dates. The survey module is an opportunity to receive immediate feedback. And you can also send this to externally or internally as well. And there's many different types of questions that you can arrange within the survey module. And there's also version control within the survey of this module. Next is the training module. Now, the training module, anybody can use to request a training and somebody can then devise a training plan, and they will invite all the participants of the training plan, and they'll be notified through their email. When time comes to perform the training, there will be attendance that will be taken, as well as the results and feedback based on the training. There's a calibration module within QDMS. It's a way to assign a particular employee to manage a calibration. Some calibrations could go on periodically, and so it could be very costly if someone were to forget about a calibration. So this is a way to do that. And then on this right side here, we have our various risk assessment modules. I'm just going to walk through the list. We have the environmental aspects and effects module. This is a way for companies to gauge their negative impacts on their environment. Then there's the health and safety risks. This is also the same idea, but it's for occupational health and safety hazards. Below that is the IT asset risk and management module. This is for information and security. And lastly, the process risk management module is the more generic sense of our risk assessment modules. Great. Now, this next slide is to present the industries that QDMS has provided for in the past. And again, this is where I would like to state that we have worked with many different types of verticals, many different industries. And as you can see, aviation industry is included in here, as well as the food, security, service, technology. And with that, I would like to show some of our references. And because we are coming from, the history of the enterprise market, we may see here some very well-known brand names here. Again, the list does not include just these big companies. We have worked with smaller companies. It is a scalable product, so we do accommodate for the mid-sized market. And how it works. Just to get a feel of it, I've logged in. This is a demonstration environment. Basically, a typical user, when they log in, they would see this screen. This is the home screen with all of their pending tasks. Pardon me as the needed to refresh my session. So here we have our pending tasks categorized by the modules we have access to, as well as the quick document search on this top right. To give a little highlight of this little tool, you can do search and filters all through your documents. You can search through document names. If you want to put a tag in your documents, you can do that as well. As well as the contents. There's a way to set QDMS so that you can search through the contents of a document. So that is a showcase of the quick document search. If you want, if you go into the main menu on the top left, this is where we see the modules that my user has permission to access. To show more of the document management module, I'll go into the document viewer. And here you see that we have a very nice structured directory. It goes from very narrow to the more specific folder structure of documentation. And this is where I can open up, for instance, a document, and you have a documents viewer straight in QDMS, so that there's no need to, for instance, download it and open up with another software. You can actually view the document straight in QDMS. And there are different ways to view the document as well. You can set it such that we are looking at a controlled copy, like a non-writable PDF, or if any instance, however more secure you want your document to be. For example, this document could be a manual that needs to be very secured. You can set it with higher restricted permissions. So here we see a tab for revision info. This is where we would look at the version history, and we can always preview our recent revisions. And QDMS also devises a way for you to set the retention of a document, such that maybe some people, they can only see the past 2 versions of a document. That can be set to the visibility of a document. Revisions can be configured. And I'll go to this history tab to show all the timestamps regarding this document upon its creation, approval, if there was any commenting that was involved in the publishing of the document, it would be regarded here. And these are the list of complaints that we have. And you can see we have different fields depending on departments, whoever opened it, what is the description. And if we want to see one of the graphical highlights of our modules, we can go into the frequency graphics. And let's say I want to look at the status. I can generate a nice chart from here. You can have it as a bar chart. Maybe you want to see it as a pie chart. That can be done as well. And these graphs, these analytics, over time, they can provide a lot of useful information for your later on decision making. So it's a way to provide evidence later on. And you can always have these saved and stored in various file types, exported in that way. The way that the complaints come in is also very consistent in function with the Kappa module. So I'll show right now just to highlight the Kappa module when you're opening up how an inspection or a practitioner would like to see a company run their quality processes is to make sure that they are handling their nonconformities to a strict structure or a very detailed manner of a flow. This is why I like to show this part of the module, is that when I'm creating a new Kappa, you see that there are some tabs that are not visible to us. That means I will not be, going ahead in the process. I will be making sure that I'm handling the initial steps of the Kappa. That way I don't get ahead of myself. And that's kind of the intuitive way that QDMS guides you through your Kappa management. Next, I can talk about the audits management module. Now, upon implementation of QDMS, you can set it such that you have a category of questions. For example, any questions pertaining to hygiene, you can set QDMS to regard those questions with a stronger weight. You can also set it such that you want certifications for your auditors. If you want to have somebody, an employee, be a practitioner for a particular industry, AS9100, for example, you can set them to do a training as a work and study on the manuals and the codes regarding this quality standard. And then once they're done, when you configure, you can, within the audit management module, set them to be a certified practitioner to run the internal audits. Or if they want to run external audits, you can do that as well. That is all I have for the demonstration of QDMS. However, I would like to present that in the discussion of AS9100D, you can digitize further with our content management platform, EBA. So with Bimser International, we have a transactional content management platform called EBA, and with it, we can digitize our forms and flows. In the aviation industry, there's a lot of inspection, a lot of testing that can happen, and this requires a lot of forms and flows that can go around. And while you want to move and take the further step into digitization, you can use EBA to digitize. For example, if you have a series of logs, you want to have a nice archive of your daily logs that your checklists that you do. You can digitally manage it through here. I can fill out a stage inspection, for instance. In this case, I could fill this out, and once I store it in, I would be able to also receive a quick way to pinpoint all of the previous entries, as well as whether they were accepted or rejected. Now, if we were to go into like a receiving of inspection form, these are just some typical AS9100 forms. You can design the workflows that go on behind those processes. So right here, you see that once we are starting the item receiver is going to send it to the inspector, and now the inspector can either approve or reject. In general, you can design these forms any way you'd like. The workflow capabilities make it very important and very beneficial for companies that are trying to digitally transform themselves. That is going to be the conclusion, actually, of this little presentation and demonstration. I wanted to talk about QDMS and how it can help a company comply with their standards, but I also wanted to take some time to talk about EBA and how it can help you the extra step in complying with AS9100D. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anderson. Thank you. So with the help of Alex, we talk about the fundamentals of AS9100, and with the help of Anderson, we learn about how we can actually comply with AS9100 in electronic environment. So it's been pretty helpful. Thank you very much, both of you, for your insights. And I see I have some questions also in the private message section and also in the public section of the chat box. So the first question looks like it is for Alex. So here is the question. If you start from scratch, how long does it take to comply with AS9100? And how much will be the cost of the compliance in general?
Okay. This is a very, very good question because it really depends a lot on the state of the organization, the company. If the company does not have any formal certification, but basically runs as if or very close to meeting the quality standards, then it takes a lot less time than the company has to really start from scratch. So, and again, with AS9100, you may have a choice of either going in steps, basically be achieving ISO 9001 certification first, and then go on to AS9100, or you can go, for AS9100, from the beginning. I would say the minimum amount of time it will take, even if you're all basically set up or if you meet all of the requirements, it would take a minimum of 3 months, but likely it would take getting, full certification probably close to a year. And it depends on how much time management wants to set aside for this kind of work. So that basically, as far as the time and the cost, of course, could vary depending on whether the company decides to use consultants in helping them to achieve that, or do everything themselves and just hiring a registrar. A registrar typically runs anywhere from 5 to 10,000. And the higher number would be for a larger company. So that's basically the cost for getting the actual certification, and about that amount, maybe a little less, would be required every year to do in order to maintain the yearly certification.
Thank you, Alex. So it depends on the company's size, depends on the size of the project, then the cost of the compliance may vary. That's what I took from your explanation. Okay,
Right.
Great. Thank you very much. So let's see what else we have in terms of our questions. Looks like this question is for you, Anderson. QDMS system, while complying with AS9100, does it run on cloud or does it run on regular servers? I think regular servers as in the on-premise servers that we call it in the industry.
Yes, QDMS can run on servers, on-premise servers, and also on cloud. We can accommodate for both. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Anderson. So there's another question. It's kind of like a follow-up question. So in terms of forms that you shared in EBA
Right.
software, if there is any other form related to AS9100, can it be generated on EBA?
Yes. Virtually any forms. If you want to have a approval process flow behind it, they can all be designed through EBA. We provide a nice little workflow studio for you to put on and digitally transform your form. To do so takes little to no time. A form can take maybe half an hour to an hour just to form. And then once it's on there, you have it forever, and you can have a nice log throughout.
Okay, great. Thank you, Anderson.
Yes.
So a couple of things that actually you mentioned earlier. One of them is actually QDMS is modular. So you can just buy what you need simply. So you don't have to buy entire system. You can choose the module that you need, or depends on the standard that you are complying with. So that is one of the flexibilities that's very important. And just like you mentioned, Anderson, so once you design a form to manage it in electronic environment, the form is yours to use it. Which affects the cost, which affects the implementation time and training time, and simplifies the process, I believe. I think I have all the questions. I shared all the questions that I received in the chat box. Very insightful. Thank you very much. There's a coming webinar in the pipeline. Basically, it's about grants and incentives. If you're interested about learning, you can follow our Eventbrite page for registration, so that you can join this webinar. It'll take place on April 24th regarding grants and incentives coming from government, especially for manufacturers if you're interested. So we'll continue this webinar series to share more information with manufacturers and other organizations. As we are an enterprise software maker, we are exposed to many different industries, and manufacturing is one of them. And we look forward to seeing you in our coming webinars. Thank you, and have a nice day.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you everybody for attending.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye now. Have a nice day.